Namaste to all the viewers that have joined us this morning. Sangam Talks welcomes you. Increasing economic power of India is a threat to the Western world. To curtail this, they played their first of many cards to destroy business powerhouse of India, the Adani groups, but failed. However, there is one lethal financial weapon in their arsenal, and they will use it without fail, and India will be caught sleeping. This talk will delve into that. What is the next looming attack on the Indian economy? It seems to be the exchange rate game. And to explain this, we have our speaker with us today, Bhagirat Joshi ji, who is a nuclear physicist, an entrepreneur, who has studied international finance, archaeologist in search of ancient connections to Sanatan Dharma worldwide, and presented talks to the American Physical Society in 2020 on his new model of nucleus, the excess neutron shell model of nuclei. I welcome you, sir, and I request you to take over from here.
Well, the India wants to be the $5 trillion economy in a very near future, but there is one problem. And the problem is that our exchange rate right now with a dollar is 80 rupees. So what that means that we are ready, we are actually ripe for economic sabotage. And USA can destroy our foreign reserves just by making rupee stronger. So all foreign companies, when this happens, when the rupee gets really stronger, they will withdraw their funds because they are getting, say, suppose we give an example that right now it's around $83. It's $81 and 81 rupee and some cents today. But say it becomes 40. So those who has brought the dollar with a value of 80 rupees, when they take it back, when the value is 40 rupees, it's like $1 they brought in, but they can take away $2. So right away, whatever our reserve is, even the half of the companies withdraw their money, we are penniless. We don't have dollars or foreign reserve. So that is a problem. The other problem we have is our news media and the people. Basically, we are not patriot at all. We go after the money only. So when this 40 rupee happens and they can withdraw, instead of $1, $2, all the NRIs who might have brought their money and given to India to work with, but now it is time because they can easily convert their rupees to dollars, and they will also take twice as much out of. So if they have brought $1, they will take $2 home. So they have 100% profit in no time. So this is like that. So if you actually bring back the 1975 economy, where the exchange rate, $1 was 8 rupees. So that is 10 times. You see that? So if you bring $1 at 80 rupees and take it away when it is 8 rupees, right? Then you are taking 10 times. So you bring $1 and take $10 home. So that is really, really a bad situation. The other thing right now, because of this exchange rate is so high, is happening is that terrorists are at rampant because they get foreign funding. So suppose they need 5 or 6 lakhs rupees to just set up a bomb somewhere, that will equate to only $7,000. And anyone in United States, even a laborer in United States can fund that whole, sabotage, like setting up a bomb somewhere. Now, if we have the 1975 economy, then instead to set up the same bomb, to get the same 5 lakhs rupees, you need $71,000. So it is like a deterrent. When you have a right exchange rate, it becomes a deterrent because they don't have that much funding to give you to do some, terrorist work. The other problem is that, when we have, $1 is 80 rupees, is we are selling our products very, very cheaply. So we are not even making enough. So that is, another problem. So aligning this rate to dollar in a right way is very, very important. For this, I will give you one example of Japan. Everybody might have heard that, Japan is in a dark ages, and they were in dark ages for 30 years or more. And even today they are suffering because of this, and they have to go out of the country for production. Not within country, they cannot produce. The problem was that when the exchange before 1985 or around 1985, the exchange rate was $1 equal to 275 yen. Now, that was very lucrative to American businesses because 275, they can bring $1, they get 275 yen. So many businesses set up. Okay. So, and at that time in 1985, Japan was holding $2.8 trillion worth of foreign bonds, treasury bonds of United States. Now, treasury bond is the debt of United States. Normally, when they do the deficit funding, that is when they fund that is when they float the treasury bonds. So Japan was holding, and at that time, the total economy of United States was around $6 trillion because in 1975. And out of that, and their debt was also $6 trillion. And out of that, almost half, $2.8 trillion, were in debt was being held by only one country, and that was Japan. And Japan was really rich at that time. Japan has close to $6 trillion. They had 6 trillion up to, around $6 trillion in their reserve. That is, 6,000 billion dollars were their reserve. Now, so in 1985, to tame Japan, the Plaza Accord was signed by G7 countries. Now, Plaza Accord, was there that they are going to control the yen. And one professor in Japan wrote the book, Japan Can Say No To. And that book, got a lot of publicity in United States. And US president at that time was, Mr. Reagan. He did not like it. So plan was set up and placed in motion to realign yen with the dollar. So what they did, so it is not easy just to, set up a plan, but there is a lot of planning went ahead before that. By 1981, actually, which, this planning, 81, the plan was ready. The toolkit was ready in 1981. And it was done by Harvard, Yale, and all other, big Ivy League colleges together. And that plan was ready. And it was just waiting, that toolkit was waiting to be used. So they started using it. So let us see what Japan had in 1986. Japan had close to $6 trillion, that is 6,000 billion in reserve foreign currency, out of which 2.8 trillion, that is 2,800 billion in US currency, was in the US Treasury bond. And they were buying a lot of real estate here, including, Rockefeller Tower they bought. And that was they had spent around $400 billion to buy the US real estate to hedge it against any other problem, and they can use that and get the extra money or raise like that. So American company has at that time in Japan around 3 trillion, that is 3,000 billion dollars in yen. And they had brought that, anywhere from 275 to 360 per yen, per dollar. So, $1 when they brought in, at one point it was 360, which was now 275. So that is where it was resting, 275. So let's go to the next one. So this is how they played the game. So in America, what they did, that US news media, stock market, Moody's rating service, US banks and European banks started their work. They started praising Japanese economy. They praised Japanese economy, they praised Japanese presidents, they praised Japanese prime ministers, everything. They praised Japanese people and Japanese workers, and they made them feel so good that your economy is the best and the best example in the world. And then they started saying that, now you have such a nice economy and it's so good, then why don't you just, open up your yen for easy exchange so we can do the business in a right way. Like, I can just present yen to your bank and it can convert into dollar, and I can transfer it immediately to USA. Or if I want to bring USA dollar, I can give it to the bank and immediately it will be available without government intervention, it will be available in Japan. So, and it is possible because now you are the, like a second largest economy of the world. So Japan was reaching there, as a second or third largest economy at that time. So, after all this praise and all this mumbo jumbo, they agreed and opened up the currency, the yen, to the marketeers. Now, one thing we should know, and when that happened, everybody praised them. And they were praising them as if, they have done a big job and amazing job. And now even economy will flourish 10 times and it can even surpass US economy and all those kind of things in the media. Articles were written. One thing everybody should know here, that exchange rate is not set by any government. Exchange rates are set by banks, and banks work in collusion with each other. And namely, 3 banks gets involved. One is Bank of England. The second is Chase Bank in United States. And third is Bank of America. Those and sometimes Citibank. So all these 4 banks set the exchange rate. Now, the way, they fool the country is, they will ask Japan Bank, or, if they want to convert it, they say, what is the exchange rate, So they don't know whether they are bringing the money in or bringing out. If the country doesn't need the money, then it will make their currency stronger, you see. So that is what happened. And then out of the blue, these banks started reducing the value of dollar to such a level that in less than a week, it became 99 yen. And I was there in Japan that day. It was, really, really bad situation when I was there. What happened that when I entered Japan, landed in Narita airport, I converted $1,000 Okay, the situation, just to explain how this happened. So 1,000, so that gave me 275,000 yen. I was there for 3-4 days. I had spent around, 1,000, 175,000, 1,75,000, yen I spent. And when I left, the exchange rate was 99. So when I converted my 1 lakh yen and some, 1,10,000 or something like that, I got $1,000 back. So it's as if I didn't spend anything or I had a free ride. So that's what happened. But what happened that 99 yen, going from 275 to 99, that $3,000 billion that US companies had, immediately they converted to dollar and transferred. Now they couldn't transfer it because Japan did not have the money, because this is 3 times the money. 3 trillion became 9 trillion and they couldn't do anything. So that happened. So $9 trillion. So it's around 9 or 8 trillion dollars. It was the money that needed to be transferred to United States or out of Japan. So that created a lot of. So what happened that Japan did not have ready dollars to transfer and pay this newly created bank debt. So what they did, let's go to the next slide. So it was totally tragic aftermath. US media and world media now started questioning Japan's economy. They reduced the rate, exchange rate, and now they are questioning their economy. World Bank refused to lend any money to Japan. Reagan made statement that with such a fragile economy, how Japan is boasting that Japan can say no to, and he quoted that, book. So that was really, really bad for Japan. So to save the face, let's go to the next. To save the face, because nobody was giving them the credit, because it was so much that only the big government can do it. So Japan gave away the $2,800 billion. They had a cash, so whatever the cash was, they give it away and disbursed it. And the treasury bonds they had, $2.8 trillion worth of, that they sold, and they got only $800 billion, less than a $1 trillion they got. And they sold their real estate. In some real estate, they couldn't even pay the tax. So they simply gave the key and say, here it is, we don't want this. So that's how they gave away. They gave away the Rockefeller Center for free back to the original owners, who were the Americans. So this is how it went. And still they needed a lot of money. So later on, let's go to the next slide. So later on, what happened, that USA, after a lot of negotiation, agreed to give $5 trillion. That's a $5 billion. So this is a bank debt which was created just by changing the exchange rate. So you can see the horrific implications that we can also have. So that happened. So $5 trillion were, given at the interest rate, whatever was at that time. At that time, it was around 8 to 7% interest rate. At that rate, the $5 trillion were given by United States with a lot of conditions attached, where Japan had to follow those conditions, because Japan was not a free country even in those days, because after the Second World War, when Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs were, the nuclear bomb were exploded on Japan, if you know. At that time, Japan had made a treaty that they will be with United States and they have no fight and they will not, and as a part of that treaty, they had said that they will not even have an army. They can have a police force, but no army. So Japan did not have army for a long time. Even in 85, they were fully dependent on United States to help them out. So they, so the United States agreed to give, $5 trillion at that time. And then the papers were signed. Japan, signed the mortgage, whatever you call it, for $5 trillion loan. And the money did not go to Japan. All the money went to the US businesses. And so no money was, this was the, debt created by changing the exchange rate. So, Japan made agreement, promised good conduct. Good conduct means they will not go to Russia or anybody else for protection. They will always come to United States. That is the whole idea. So Japan went into 30 years of horrible debt of US $5 trillion. The hard lesson learned by Japan, one of the best lessons is learned by Japan is that the guard your exchange rate. You do not let your exchange rate fluctuate at all. And even though, we don't like China has done that. China always guards their yuan. Yuan cannot fluctuate anywhere. It just stays the same, 12, no matter what they want to, US want to say, $1 equal to 12 or 10 yuan. That's even today, they keep guard it very strongly, and they are vigilant on that. So that is one of the lessons that we have to also learn, that we have to guard our exchange rate very, very, with very, vigilance. We cannot let it fluctuate the way we have done it in last, 30, 40 years, because from in 1975, it was 8 rupees for $1, and today we have 82. That is a huge fluctuation, and that can kill us. That is the whole, problem. So in case of Japan, since 1987, the yen exchange rate has not changed much. It's always stays around 100, 99 to 109, something like that it will be. It will not go anywhere. Now, how they did it, that is also thing. Japan does not base their currency on GDP. GDP is a gross developed product, right? It's like if you know finance, the accounting, then it is just one part of the scheme which is called income. GDP is your income. But what about, like in our families, we talk about somebody bringing the salary home, but that doesn't mean that that is the only asset they have, and that is the only valuation that that house has. Because what about the gold that all the women are wearing? What about the savings in the bank? All of those has to be included in the equation when you look at something. So they have started doing it GNP, gross national product. So what that does is gross national product is where you also include the products that are not developed and assets that you have, which is underground or which you don't even know today, but you might uncover in future, like the way we have found out our lithium reserves in India, you see, and that is a value which can, our currency can get stronger with that value. And Americans and the Western societies know that because of that, they can actually sabotage us and they can just take the raw material from us. Those are kind of things that they want to do. So let's go to the next slide. So can rupee value be based on GDP? The flat answer is no, because basing on GDP is a suicidal. And let us see how it is suicidal. So suppose these people decide to lower and make our rupee stronger and make it 40, right? What happens then? Whatever we send outside, export, right? It will get half the value. So instead of getting 80 rupees before, now we will be getting 40 rupees. So what happens to the businesses which are producing that? They cannot afford to send at 40 rupees. They have to get higher value. And if they try to do the higher value, what happens? They will not be able to sell it. And if that happens, they have to reduce the either workforce, that means get rid of some of the people who are working, or reduce their salaries. So if somebody who is getting 30,000 rupees, the question is he going to take 15,000 rupees in return per month instead of 30,000? Because that is what has happened because of the exchange rate change. And it is not possible for that person to accept 15,000 because it is the exchange rate change. But for the looking at from the perspective of the manufacturer, he cannot get the money. He is getting half the money. So half the rupees that he used to get before. So if that happens, it is very hard, and there will be a lot of unrest in India. So to stop that unrest, and the news media, who is always against the ruling party, they will go on the rampant to ruin even further the economy by encouraging everyone to stop work and do this and all those kind of things. And we will have a problem. Now in Japan, how they handled this situation? They handled it, they voluntarily took a salary cut. The workers took the voluntary salary cut, which does not happen anywhere else. They took voluntary salary cut. So whoever was making more, they took because of the exchange rate issues. And also they needed people to come to Japan and visit because tourism is a big business for them. So what they started to do that all the hotels were 3 times pricey. So what before the $80 hotel was now $240. Now local Japanese can afford it, but the Americans or other people coming from other countries may not be able to afford it. So what they started doing is that as soon as you land on any of their major airport, they had the people, government people, in working with the hotels to give them the reduced rate. So when I went the second time, there was, the government people, they were asking me if I have a reservation for the hotel. And I said, no, I don't have it. So they came back and gave me the lowest rate. And they also told me that if I go and ask for it, I will not get it because this is a special rate for foreigners who can afford our services. That is how they kept their tourism alive, and they reduced the rate. Those kind of things may not happen. And what businesses did, that Toyota and all the Japanese car manufacturers had to stop producing cars in Japan because Japan labor was very expensive now. Even the Japanese manufacturers were not able to take advantage of it. So they had to transfer all their plants to United States, and that is how they save the money, and they are helping pay off the debt, this huge debt. So we have to actually realign our currency on our own. Now, who will do that? It needs a lot of courage from our Reserve Bank. And only Reserve Bank can do it, because Reserve Bank controls the exchange rate in in India. So they need to be able to. So we have to change two things. One, we have to go on the GNP, not GDP. When we value our currency, we have to use GNP, gross national product. Now, when you want to do that on a daily basis, then even banks have to support us, and the black money that we are still doing it, even after we demonetize certain currencies, 1,000 rupees and 500 rupees. Even after that, lot of people are doing black money. They are not paying the required, goods and services tax, GST. So the way they are doing it is they are working under table. You give them the goods and services and take the money under table, not through the bank. And whoever goes out there and buys, they just go with their 2,000 rupee notes instead of giving them the check or doing the electronic transaction. They will bypass certain things like that and use it. And most of the time when you are taking, this kind of tax problem is when they are doing the contract work, where it is very easy to transfer from one hand to another hand to another hand. So that needs to be totally stopped, and that can stop if we slowly withdraw 2,000 rupee notes, and that needs to be done. You cannot have 2,000 rupees notes circulating at all. And once you know that enough is not, there is not much circulating, first of all, you have to stop printing them and stop circulating them. And whatever the 2,000 rupee notes come in the bank, they should send it to the RBI and destroy it. So that is very important. And we have to go on GNP, which is a gross national product. We cannot just do with gross developed product, which is GDP. So that is, very important that we do that. And let's go to the next slide. So we need the ideal person heading RBI, and what his qualification should be is not just the economist, because economist has no idea on the international business and setting of exchange rates between different countries. All those exchange rates are set up by these few banks. So government in Western country is not involved at all. So our RBI person who is going to head our, the RBI governor, has to be well versed in international finance and business. That is a must, not the economist. He has to be in the business. Economists don't understand this. Economists will go macroeconomics and microeconomics, but they do not understand day to day or the fluctuations. And the person must have experience of stock exchange. So in stock market, a stock exchange, in an analyst position. That means it analyzes what is the value of the stock, because there is no difference between creating the value of the stock and creating the exchange rate, the value of the currency. So that is very important and must be bold enough to keep the value in check all the time. And as time goes by, it should, like, every year, few percentage, for us, right now we are at 80, we should be able to withstand the value of a rupee getting stronger 1% every month. That is my calculation. And we could do that because as the currency value is going down, the NRIs might bring more funds in because they will know that next month it might be little lower and they will not get as many rupees. Same thing will happen with the businesses also. So we can offset the outflow and inflow of the rates. So that is what is done. And the other thing which is very good initiative taken by our Prime Minister is that we have started doing business in Indian rupee. So that is very good because now what it is that we are dealing 1-to-1 in rupees. So like we are doing with Russia, buying everything in rupees, paying in rupees. So if they want to spend that rupee, they have to buy from us, which is the very nice thing because our businesses will get a chance to produce and a lot of people can get employed through other businesses. Similarly, the other countries who has started rupee exchange, rupee purchase with us and all the rupee contracts, that shields us from this kind of sabotage. And it is so important that we do that. So that is what I wanted to say. And the other thing that we have to be more patriotic and not listen to this kind of rubbish news that news media is trying to give it to us. They need to have some decency in presenting the right atmosphere and to tell everybody the right thing. Economic storm that I see where because if we go on GNP, I am suspecting that our rupee will be so strong that it could be $1 equal to 5 rupees. Because once you go on GNP, you will realize that what we were doing is only deceiving ourselves and being poor by ourselves. You see? Because the exchange rate can make you poor. If you have 10,000 rupees, and you want to go. One example, in 1975, when I bought the plane ticket, I paid 4,500 rupees, 4,500 rupees, a plane ticket. What is it today? Today is in 80, 90,000, depends. So that is the power of exchange rate. Exchange rate either can make you poor or it can make you rich. But in our case, what happens that when we bring our economy to $5 trillion, it will be sabotaged in no time, like Japanese, because if they started doing arbitrarily within a week or within a month, they make our rupee stronger to say 20 rupees, then we are doomed. Because not only that will take our foreign exchange out, we will put us in debt, but it will also create unrest all over India. Because everyone who is employed by the foreign companies, they will have to take a pay cut. Everyone who is employed in any other company, even not exporting or exporting, they will have to also take a pay cut. And nobody would like the pay cut. And they will all go to the streets, start, burning our assets, because in India, the riots are the worst and they are mindless. They will start burning all the buses, start doing unimaginable things. So we have to be very careful and we have to realign this rupee value by ourselves, not depend on other country to do it. So if we don't realign ourselves, then they will sabotage us by quickly aligning it. And this way, if we start today, within say few years, 2-3 years, we can align it properly, and it will be like a 1% per month. And that way, it will not give a shock to our economy. So that's what I have to say. And we have to guard our exchange rate very carefully. Otherwise, no matter what is our even if we have a 5 trillion economy, they can sabotage us. But so few things we have to do, and see, less likely if we realign our rupee ourselves and at a true value, then less likely economic sabotage. So we will not have sabotage that we look for. Like in case of Adani, Hindenburg couldn't sabotage it because what happened that he had the value and the funds with him, so he can easily give back those funds to the banks and become stronger. And Hindenburg couldn't do much. So, and we will have a stronger economy because, instead of 5 trillion, we can be even 10 trillion economy if we realign and our growth is the real growth with GNP. Goods, when you are getting something for 80 rupees exchange rate from outside, they are expensive. In India, if you get it at 20 rupees, then it's cheaper. The iPhone today, which is what, 50,000 rupees, 60, 70, I don't know. But if it is 20 rupee exchange rate, then it will be 4 times, 1/4 the price that we pay today. So only 25%. That's how it will happen. And many people can afford it, but then everybody will have to take a pay cut too. So that's another. The life will be easier if we realign our rupee properly. The other good advantage of that realigning is the conversion. We have a lot of forced conversion going on because if we need this foreign funders, they send 5 crore rupees. So in 5 crore rupees, how many they can convert? Lot of them. 5 crore is a lot of money. The reason they can send 5 or 6 crore or 8 crore rupees because only 10 lakhs dollar, that's $1 million, can give you 8 crore. That's a 1 million. 1 million 80 times. So that is the 80 million rupees. So that's a lot of rupees. But if you have an exchange rate of 20, just to send that 5 crores, they might have to do 4 times that many dollars. So the religious conversions will be less. Also, the foreign supported terrorism will be too expensive for them to carry on in India, because for the same 5 crore, they have to give five times that money, or 2 times that money, or 4 times that money in dollar. So that's the, and we will have a less political unrest because they will not be funding news media the way they are funding today, which will stop. So those are the benefits of realigning the rupee ourselves at a true value. And the first step in that one is to go to GNP. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such an insightful talk. It was extremely important that you rang the warning bells that you did for the Indian economy and simplify the concept of exchange rate for all of our viewers. Thank you again. Happy Sita Navami to all of you. And
Thank
we
you.
hope to have you again.
Sure. Thank you.